Hello class, and welcome back! I have to say I am very impressed by how enthusiastic you all are to be in this course. It's a pleasant surprise. Here I thought I was going to have to cut the class if the turnout was bad, and now I'm looking forward to the semester we have ahead of us. To quickly recap, last lecture we talked about Gaster and his relationship to Undertale and Deltarune. We talked about the secret bosses, Jevil and Spamton, their possible connection to Gaster, and the shadow crystals you receive from defeating them. We more mentioned than talked about Azrael, and then we wrapped it up with Roulxs and how suspicious he is. That lecture featured items that I consider to be absolutely basic and extremely important when it comes to understanding Deltarune. Today we'll be doing the last couple basics and then start delving into some of the more, shall we say, questionable subjects, where we start to venture a little more out of fact and a little more into common theories. As a reminder for those watching this in the future, this video was put together during the time between Chapter 2's release and the eventual release of Chapters 3 and 4. May you look back at this time capsule kindly. Today's first topic is Kris and the player. Now, should this have probably been covered in the first video because it is so very important to understanding the game and the narrative that is being told? Yes. Did I forget to? Yes again, but here we are, so we're going to ignore bad life decisions and just move forwards. For those who may not be aware, there's a difference between Kris the character and you, the player playing the game. This is first made clear when Kris enters the Dark World in the closet in Chapter 1. When you save at your first save point, there's already a file there, Kris's file. When you save over it with your own file, your name overwriting Kris's. For most of Chapter 1, this is the biggest hint towards the nature of the player's influence on Kris. There are, however, some other notable hints throughout the chapter about this. During the section when Susie is on her own, it is shown that she can't hear the player when they try to tell her what to do. Then, during the fight with Lancer, the heart comes from the upper right-hand corner, the direction that Kris is in. After leaving the Dark World, as Kris goes around town, quite a few of the townspeople point out that Kris is acting odd. This seems to tell you that the player is not actually putting on all that good of an act of being Kris. And, of course, the most damning piece of evidence is that at the very end of the chapter, Kris rips the soul out of their chest and throws it into the birdcage, proceeding to act without the player's input. During this scene, the heart can actually move around a bit, responding to the player's attempt to move around. The splatter outside of the birdcage, as well as the flavor text that the birdcage has been through several crashes, may hint that this is far from the first time that Kris has pulled the soul from them. Together, this plainly tells us a few important facts. That Kris and the player are two separate entities, and that the player is the one in control of the soul. This revelation, however, brings a few questions up. Is this a second soul within Kris? Is this Kris's own soul that is controlled by us for some reason? How did the player end up with that control anyway? It's very unclear, something to make a good theory out of. Though in the survey portion at the beginning of the game, the Goner Maker scene, as it is usually called, the red soul appears at the beginning here. And one theory is that the soul was supposed to go into the empty vessel you're creating. But whatever happens at the end that disrupts the process, puts the soul into Kris. But again, that's just speculation. Chapter 2 builds a little bit more on the understanding of the relationship between the player and Kris, as well as the role that the player has in the world and the control that they have over Kris. As Aruden mentions, Castletown is also known as Your Name Town, a name that has not been canonically said or referred to except for the survey at the beginning when you are asked for the name of the creator of the vessel. It also is a name that shows up when you're saving. For instance, I named the creator for my game Star, so Aruden said Castletown was also known as Startown. Fun little fact, I named mine Star, so it looks like Start Town, and so I was like, oh haha, because it's where you start, and I had to be told that the name meant something. Anyway, later on in the chapter, we have another moment when Susie runs off, and we still don't have control over her, cementing further that we don't just have player who is playing the video game control over which character is meant to be the focus or played at the time. It's not just the player's control that is further established though, but Kris's opinions and personality. The player may be able to choose options for Kris, but they don't seem able to control Kris's inflection when they are saying those answers, and several characters comment on this. And then there's the Snowgrave or Weird route, an alternative series of events that can take place in part of Chapter 2, sort of akin to a no mercy run. As I said in my first lecture, I plan to devote a whole section to this and its implications, but for now, I'll just say that the Snowgrave route makes the strength of the player's influence over Kris even more clear, as well as ways that they may be able to influence other characters. Now, the question remains, are you yourself playing a role? The role of mysterious entity who controls Kris? Or are you playing yourself? I don't know if that makes sense, but like, are you playing, I am the character who is controlling Kris, or are you, the game is making it meta that I am controlling Kris? Most people have accepted the latter explanation, that the game understands that you, the player, are influencing Kris, the character, pulling a Ratatouille, you may say. It's not as if it's outside the realm of possibility, considering Undertale and the role that Kara has. The main character, Frisk, seems to lose some control when they're doing the merciless route. The meta nature of the player is also mentioned by Flowey after trying to continue playing once getting through the true pacifist ending. So the meta aspect of the main character not having control of their actions and the player being acknowledged as an entity who has control is already somewhat established. Alright, our next subject, mysterious and important as it is the Knight. The Knight is mentioned a handful of times throughout the game. In Chapter 1, the Knight is described as a being who arrived in the Card Kingdom and upset the order, telling the Spade King things that drove him to such violence against the other kings and against Lightners. The Knight is also mentioned by Jevil in one of his ending dialogues, and is often considered the source of what drove him crazy. We learn more about the Knight in Chapter 2 from the Queen. She tells us that the Knight is the one responsible for creating dark fountains, or at the very least, responsible for creating this one specifically. This means the Knight is likely to be a Lightner, as it is established that Lightners are the ones with the power, or determination, to create dark fountains. Queen tells us that the Knight created this world but then left, and while there's a video in her castle of the dark fountain being made, the Knight themselves can't be quite made out from the video. The remaining questions are, of course, what are the motives of the Knight? And what is the identity of the Knight? Trying to figure out one is usually connected to trying to figure out the other. The two most common motives that I've heard are, the Knight is trying to purposefully bring on the Roaring, or the Knight is searching for something in the Dark Worlds. As for who the Knight may be, of the characters we've met, there are a few candidates who come up fairly often. We have Gaster, December, Noelle's sister, who I will cover more in depth in a later lecture, Kris, and Papyrus. Gaster comes up due to the fact that he is a weird guy, and who wouldn't believe he's capable of turning people around him crazy? And he might have knowledge about the meta aspects of the game. And also, people love giving him any role that seems slightly mysterious. December is believed to be lost, and some believe that she is lost in the Dark Worlds or beyond. Could she be the Knight, creating dark fountains to try and get free? Or having some kind of motivation yet unknown to us? Kris, as we've already seen from Chapter 2, is not just capable of creating dark fountains, but has now done so. And despite how much time is spent with Kris, they are still an enigma with mysterious goals that even we are not privy to. And we know that there is some time that we don't see what they're doing. Finally, of these four candidates, Papyrus has yet to make an appearance. And maybe that's because he plays such an important role in the game. They were saving him for this. Papyrus will be there. Please, Mr. Fox, I need my boy. Where is he? Why won't he come out of his house? I need to hear his wonderful Skeletor laugh. Anyway, our next brief subject is Roulxs Kaard. Alright, let's get this over with. Some of you might be thinking, Roulxs Kaard? I thought this was Deltarune Theory Basics, not Deltarune Character Analysis. Which, well, that's down the hall. You can catch it if you would like. And the two often go hand in hand. But the reason why I bring up Roulxs Kaard is that people often find him to be a rather suspicious character and believe that he will play a large role in the future. There are a few hints about this, of course. For one, we have yet to fight Roulxs Kaard face to face yet, instead always fighting whatever things he has working for him. K-Round in Chapter 1 and the Thrash Machine in Chapter 2. It seems like he may have some kind of secret hidden strength or power, and if he continues to follow the Lancer fan club world to world, we may get to see more of that. He also looks a little bit like Gaster. Does he look a lot like Gaster? No, but enough to take note of it. And let's be real, if it was revealed that he was actually Gaster the whole time, that would be so funny. Deltarune would automatically get a 10 out of 10 from me. Overall, there's not much to say about him, other than people love to bring him up and talk about all the ways that he's just a little odd, just a little suspicious. Weird how he keeps showing up, huh? So he's worth mentioning just to keep him in his mind, sort of like I did with Azriel last time. Now, onto a favorite topic of mine, eggs. Eggs, eggs, eggs. Not Easter eggs, or not exactly. One of these strange items can be found in each chapter thus far. To locate them, you have to go back and forth between two specific rooms, until by chance you end up in a secret room with a tree in it. When you go behind the tree and interact, you get the dialogue that there is a man, and the man gives you an egg. This egg is one of two items that does not change its appearance between worlds. The other is the phone, though the phone does seem to more or less cease working in the Dark World. The egg item only has one use per chapter, and trying to hold on to the egg is pointless. It disappears from your inventory overnight. In Chapter 1, the egg can be placed in Asgore's fridge. Some people say that the egg multiplies when you do this, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's true that when you interact a second time, it says, now there's 2 eggs. But if you don't put the egg in, you'll still find 1 egg when you interact with Asgore's fridge a second time. In Chapter 2, the egg can be placed into the pile of eggs in Stan's store, and you'll get Susie asking if you're reverse stealing an egg. The purpose of the eggs is yet unclear, made all the more experienced by their check dialogue. Not too important, not too unimportant. I have actually made a video talking about my thoughts on the eggs, but to summarize, I personally believe that they are going to impact how the locations that the eggs were put will be affected by the roaring, assuming that the roaring is going to happen by the end of the game. Other thoughts I've seen about them is that they are just Easter eggs and not all that notable, or perhaps they are going to be necessary for the good ending, or for forging some kind of secret weapon. The other notable thing about the eggs is that if you spell out egg in uppercase wingdings, the way that Gaster seems to speak, it is spelled with a hand pointing left and up twice. This is the movement that a knight in chess is able to take. We may not know for sure what this means, but it's enough to connect the strange eggs to both Gaster and the knight. Today's closing remarks is on the nature of the single ending of Deltarune. Deltarune has been said to have one ending, maybe. When the first chapter was released, it was supposed to have one ending, as stated by Toby Fox. This makes sense, seeing as the entire concept of the game started from a dream that Mr. Fox had for an ending of a game that he felt he needed to create. However, that doesn't mean that people have just accepted this, especially seeing as there's a question mark at the end of the sentence on the Steam page for the game. Still, when theory crafting, the fact that this was at least originally going to have one ending is often taken into account. What can be changed in the middle of the story that will still result in the same ending? What even counts as the same ending? If characters are, say, dead in one route but alive in another, but the ending scene is in the same place with the same dialogue, same cutscene, does that count as one ending or 2? Your actions seem to have some consequences in the world, at the very least. And as Toby Fox has also said, maybe there's something more important than reaching the ending. I would like to give a quick shout out to a few people from my Discord. Melaneon, Pruintilli, and Limit. These 3 people were all willing to read through the script for me to make sure that it came out as nice as it is, and it means a lot to me that people are willing to do that. That's all for today's lecture, and I'd like to thank you again for being here. And hopefully it won't be too long before we have another class. Study hard, folks, and I'll see you next time.